Thank you, Lorraine. And it's an absolute pleasure to be here to answer one of the most common questions we get, which is, but how? Like, you have 24 drill rigs going. Like, really, how? How do you ensure you guys are doing what you're doing? So this was a great venue, and when Leapfrog approached us, we said, sure, absolutely. Just to get going, obviously some of the things I might be saying may be construed as forward-looking, so don't buy stock based on what I say right now. Same with the technical information, and then every time we go through boring slides, I really like to put up nice slides. So this is some of the visible gold that we're getting from our project Windfall. So at the beginning, let's just make sure everyone's on the same page, which is what is data risk. So for us, and from Osisko's perspective, there are two different things. One, which we've termed the IT perspective, which is your potential loss relating to the physical data itself, and I'm not going to be talking about that at all. That's the cybersecurity, where is your data, who has access to it. I'm not discussing that part. What I'm going to discuss is what I've termed the geological perspective, but really you could just insert any adjective that you want for whatever it is you're working with. And this is surrounding the quality and your capture of your data. So is incorrect data being recorded? Is data partially being recorded? Or is data not being recorded at all? So these are things that you worry about, particularly like you were worried about this with one drill turning, but if you have 24 drills turning, you've increased your risk of those things significantly. And then there's also the communication of data. So if your data is not being shared, you're not making the best decisions. And there are economic impacts to that. So that's the what. So I'm really going to be covering the quality capture of the data and how we communicate that data. For a junior exploration company, which is technically what Osisko is, this is hugely important because this is the why, like why. And if you look at the valuation of junior explorers, it's very difficult to evaluate us because we don't have anything in production. Mostly we have land and a dream. But if you have a resource, then most of your resources are going to go to the valuation of the company. And your resource is based on your data and your database. So if you get that wrong, it all starts to fall over. And as Lucy so eloquently just discussed all of those economic impacts, if you're a junior explorer, you're very quickly going to end up on the bottom of the sea doing a whole lot of nothing. So Windfall, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's in Quebec. This is where it's located. We're on the 49th parallel, which in Quebec means you have 2 meters of snow right now and it doesn't get above zero. Weather's much nicer here in Vancouver on the 49th parallel. Technically, it is in northern Quebec. It's in the James Bay region. It's a couple hundred kilometers north of Val d'Or. This is just a quick overview. So when I discuss the zones, you know what I'm talking about. Don't worry, you don't have to memorize them. The takeaway from this is really Lynx is on one side, and then on the other side we have Underdog, and what we collectively refer to as the main zone, which is Mallard, Zone 27, and Caribou. So that's just general, so you know where the zones are when I talk about them. From a timeline, in August 2015, there was a 4-way merger between junior exploration companies. Out of that came what is now the Osisko Mining Company, and we acquired the Windfall project. In October 2015, we put 4 drill rigs on it with the idea to drill 55,000 meters. Things were going very well, so by December 2016, we'd actually drilled 150,000 meters, and we added another 250,000 meters. So by August 2017, we had 24 drills on site. Things were still going well. We added another 400,000 meters. By May 2018, we put out our first resource estimate. We didn't like the one that was from the previous operator had done, so we redid it. This was Osisko's estimate. We put out a PEA right after it. In November, we updated just the Lynx part. And then in March of this year, we added another 200,000 meters of drilling. So if you're adding that together, what we're doing is we're drilling 1 million meters. So Osisko's putting in 1 million meters of drilling into the Windfall deposit. And why we do that is really because of SUDS, which is Osisko's philosophy. For those of you who've heard Sean speak, you'll know what this stands for. For those of you that don't, it stands for shut up and drill stupid. And this comes from that keep it simple stupid. So at the Osisko group, we firmly believe that the best thing you can do is drill. You can spend a lot of time looking at a lot of data and humming and hawing over targets, but you're not really going to know until you put a hole in the ground. So we put holes in the ground, and we put lots of them in the ground. So what does that look like at Windfall? So this is our drill count. So you can see at the beginning where we had 4 drills, that's October 2015. Things are going well, we're getting the money, so we're up to 24 drills. We put our resource estimate. We dropped drills at that point, so we had a little bit more time to think about it, but we never turn the drills off. So it's constant. Our data flow is constant. And again, we're going to be doing another resource estimate early next year. So we increased drills back to 24. So what does that mean in terms of data? So that's about 100 discrete data points per minute that is being generated at Windfall. So I've been speaking for approximately 5 minutes. Just in the time that I've been standing here, we've produced 500 discrete data points at Windfall. So what are we doing with that? How do we capture that data, and how do we communicate that data? So I'm going to start with what our organizational structure is and how we set things up at Windfall. So first, we've got our senior project manager, that's Louis or Isabel, and reporting to them are 3 supervisors. These supervisors each have 8 drill rigs that they are in charge of, and they have 6 to 7 logging geologists under them. We also have our geotechnicians, we have the planning department, the modeling team, the database managers, and the special projects team. And in terms of software, obviously we don't do this in Excel. We use DHLogger, and we use Leapfrog. So the supervisors are in charge of those 8 drills. So they're each assigned those drills plus their logging geologists. In order to ensure continuity, each supervisor visits their logging geos daily. So if the loggers have any questions whatsoever about the core that they're seeing, they have a supervisor right there. So there is no core that leaves that core shack without having been reviewed by 2 people. The supervisors are also in charge of what we call the EOH procedures, so those end-of-hole procedures. So before each hole is checked out of the master database to their local, is then logged, and before it gets checked back into the master database, the logging geologist has reviewed it, and the supervising geologist has reviewed it. And the supervising geologists had so much work to do that they just started writing their own scripts and macros to check for errors. So as soon as they wrote a script or a macro that started to work for them, they shared that. And then if they missed an error but found it later, they'd write a new script or macro in order to capture that, and they would share it. The planning department, this is one position, and they're in charge of 24 drills. So some days we have up to 12 to 13 drill rigs moving in a day. That's not usual, but it can happen. So where are these drills going? With 24 drill rigs, you better keep them busy. And if they're not busy, you're being charged for it. And if they're in the wrong place, then you're losing a lot of money very quickly. The planning department is at Windfall, and they also go into the core shack every day to look at all of the core. Did we hit what we expected to hit? If we did, great, confirm model. If we didn't, why not? So the planners are also talking to the supervisors and the drill geologists. The modeling team are also based at Windfall. So everyone is at the same site at the same time. So if the modeling geologists have any questions, they can talk to the loggers directly, or they can just pull out the core, see it for themselves, either with the photos or to go pull the core, see the core out of the racks themselves. Our database managers, obviously with that many drills turning, we also have a lot of assay data coming in. So we have our one geologist who's fully committed to importing all that assay data and doing the QA/QC, and we have another one who's just in charge of the database itself. The data coming out, that's the geological data. And then we have the special projects team. So if during logging, one of the logging geos comes across a unit that they don't know what it is, supervisor doesn't know what it is, they log it the best they can, they continue going, and then the special projects team will take that over. So that question of what is that, how does that fit into the model goes to the special projects team, so it doesn't hold up the loggers and the supervisors because they have more core coming. So from a data quality and capture point of view, things that worked and that work really well for us, from that data quality and capture, drop-down menus. When you have 65 geologists on payroll who are logging core, they get creative really quickly. So we really limit what they can do with drop-down menus. Now, the special projects team can add codes. If they don't know what it is, the logging geos don't know what it is, and it gets sent over to the special projects team, and the special projects team agrees, yes, this is a code, it's not in the database, but this is real, then it will be added. But up until that point, you can't add. You are sticking to those drop-down menus. And then we have the employee-driven optimization. So I spoke briefly to that. So our geos are in charge of making sure that this data is correct going in. Are we missing data? Is it incorrect? And I have to say, again, Lucy so eloquently put that, like when you are looking at the data, as a modeling geo and you're starting to see these errors and really creative errors and you're starting to panic like this database is really wrong, but it's the only thing you have to create a model from, you really want to be confident. You want to be confident with that data. And our employees understand that. So from this employee-driven optimization, when they find an error, they fix it. When they find a new creative error that we didn't even know you could do, they fix it. And they're writing and they're scripting. And we didn't ask them to do that, but they started to do that on their own. And we give them the space and the time to be able to do that. So as they're doing their work and they're catching errors, they're not just going, oh, okay, I fixed it, didn't tell anyone. They're writing scripts to check so that this error doesn't happen again, and they're sharing it with each other. So we have an employee-driven optimization. There's also that high-level review. So the local review. The local review is the geos, the logging geos, and the supervisors at site. Matthias is our database manager, and he's that high-level review. So he's the person that on the back end is looking at all the data, and he's also doing separate checks and validation on the data on top of what has already been done from site. So he also has that overarching global review of it as well. And then the last thing is that the quality of the data is everyone's responsibility. Because we never shut down, there's no phases of drilling. Okay, we had drilled so many meters, we shut the site down, then you have a chance to revisit the database and fix it. We don't do that. The drills never stop. The drills are always turning. Whether it's just 4 drills or 24, the drills are always turning. So we don't have a chance to go back and fix. So if you let any errors cumulatively accumulate, we're looking at like 250, maybe a million errors by the time you stop the drills and check. We can't do anything with that. We don't have enough time. So everyone is responsible for those errors. Anyone can fix it. So if a logging geologist sees an error, they can fix it. The supervising geologist sees an error, they can fix it. The modelers, they can fix it. The database managers, they can fix it. Everyone is in charge of this data, and they are responsible for it. In terms of communication, let's go back to our organizational structure. You'll see it's very flat. And this is where we have the most information flow. And what we did is we put them all in offices beside each other. We physically put them together to ensure that all of the communication is happening frequently. Now, of course, there is communication, obviously going up and down and vertically, but that horizontal communication among those key positions is where we're getting those decisions making. Do we move the drill? Is this a good place to go? Yes or no? It's not one person making a decision. It's a collective consciousness that drives where these drills are going. Ultimate responsibility lies with the planning team, but they always check with the drill supervisors for their sections, where are we going and why. So from communication, like I said, that very flat organizational structure works. We also have a morning meeting. Every morning there's a meeting, doesn't last more than 15 minutes. We put everybody in the same room together for 15 minutes. All of the geologists, all of the geochecks, anyone who's touching that data coming out of the drill and going into a database, all of you are in the same room once a day for 15 minutes, and you review what everyone else said. So if someone sees, I've got this weird unit, everyone has a chance to go look. You said, okay, I've got just like this amazing gold, everyone needs to see it. You also have a chance to see that too. We also use personalized leapfrog projects. So right now, Central's not working for us. We'll get there eventually. But what we found worked, and we didn't ask them. Again, this is employee-driven optimization, what they did. So if they're in charge of links, one supervisor is in charge of links, they have 8 drills on links. They don't really care what's happening in Underdog because they have 8 drills turning. And with 24 drills turning, we're looking at 7,000 to 10,000 meters a week of cores coming out at Windfall. So how do you want to deal with that? So if you're a supervisor in charge of that, you're not. You're in fact not looking at all about what anyone else is doing. You're looking at what you're doing. And they'll personalize their leapfrog projects so they get the official model from the modeling team, and then everyone can really screw around in their own personal leapfrog project, and they can really mess it up and not have to worry about messing up anyone else's. And they'll test drive ideas. And that's what we do, is we test drive ideas, and we test drive a lot of them. Because with 24 drills turning, you have to keep them entertained. Those drills need to be drilling on something or somewhere that is going to add value for Osisko. We want to make sure we're hitting the targets. So we test drive a lot of those ideas. So this is what our morning meeting looks like. At the back, that's a screen, so every single drill is listed along with what's happening. Are we near target? Did we hit target? Did we miss target? Are we through target and waiting to end of hole? So everyone knows what's going on at site, even if you're not responsible for that drill. In terms of test driving ideas, this is just a quick screen capture from our planning department. So you can see there's like the general stuff, ramp, geology, structures, alteration, but a little bit further down, you'll see there it says truc à Alex or truc à Julien. And this is their files that they use just for spitballing ideas. So they each have their own personal project on Leapfrog where they're spitballing ideas, and then when they feel comfortable to share it with one other person, they'll share it. or 2 or 3 other people. So we're test driving maybe 60 to 120 ideas a week. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And we like to keep that very open, because even if your idea is bad or wrong, it may lead to a different idea coming from somebody else. I don't have time to talk about how important Leapfrog is for us to be able to manage all of this. But I did ask our employees, and I think they do a better job than me. So what I did is I asked our employees, and we filmed them. I asked them to imagine what Windfall would be like without Leapfrog Geo.
Et boy.
Ça serait impossible.
Would be quite a challenge. It is now, but it would. I think it would be unworkable.
Wow.
What?
Oh my god.
Oh boy. No. No. Impossible.
So we're not going to do it. I think some of them were a little bit worried, like we were actually testing this idea, but we're not. So a lot of that idea generation is done in Leapfrog Geo. So in terms of that data capture, our employees are checking the data, we're communicating it. Like, so what? Like, really? Like, is it working? And it is. So from a data quality and capture point of view, our database is actually continuously about 97% clean. So once we got to that point, we now sustain it. So if we needed to, let's say in the event of a hostile takeover, which Osisko might be a little familiar with, and we want to get a quick update on what our resources actually are like in a day, we can do it. Even though the geological model or the wireframes may not be the most up to date, we can give them a database that's 97% clean in about an hour for them to actually be able to work with. So by having this many people being able to be responsible for the data, we're working with a database that's almost continuously clean all the time. From a communication point of view, it keeps us agile and reactive. And we've talked about that today. Agility, can you react to what's coming out of the field? So if we hit a good zone, like we did with triple links, new zone, triple links, great, hit it, no problem. Within a week, we had 25,000 meters drills, 25,000 meters planned on it, and we had 7 drills on it. So we can react very quickly to what's coming out of the field, what's coming out of those drills. We can react and move to it. For Windfall, I particularly like this, because when you're rowing in an 8, if you're not all going in the right direction, you're not going very far. But when you are, it's a thing of beauty. Now also, again, like, so what? Like, come on, you're still like talking about this, but like, did it really work? Like, what are the results? And then one of the results was actually triple links, like I just mentioned. So this is the map that was sent to us from the field. And they said, look, we've got this idea, we want to test it. Links, at the start, we thought it was important. Three things were important. The I-1 frag, which is a breccia unit, the bank fault, and the Comadier, which is the large brown unit. We thought like that's like this triple point, like this is where links is. And then we thought, well, maybe it's the bank fault in the Comadier. So we drilled further down, hit links 4, great. And then the geos came back to us and said, look, we've really been thinking about it. We think actually that the Comadier is the most important thing for the gold, and we would like to test this idea. And we don't like to hold things up, so if the geos come to Toronto with an idea, we have a turnaround time of less than 24 hours to approve the hole or not. So there's no like waiting around and humming and hawing about it. So we approved the hole, and what did we hit? Yeah, we hit. We hit, in fact, a whole bunch of different zones. So we hit 47/12, 52/12, 73/12. So we hit. So this employee-driven optimization, this data capture and communication immediately led to a discovery of triple links. And this is what we were able to do, and we were able to react to it very quickly and the agile. Discovery 1, this is our baby hole right now. just over 3 kilometers right now. We'll probably go to, it's probably going to be a 3.5 kilometer length drill hole. And what we're doing is we're testing the center of the system. So when we said to the project geos at site, look, we really want to test the center of the system. Can you give us some ideas? They said, sure. In a couple days, they came back to us with a bunch of ideas. We think this is an optimal place to drill this hole, which will be roughly 3.5 kilometers. We think you'll find the center of the system. And on the way down, we'll also test the underdog extension and the extension to 888. So away we went. They hit, and we hit those holes. And again, that's not coming from us. That's coming from site. We give them the overarching. They fill in the details. Let's look at some more gold, because that's always really nice to do. This is a gold vein coming out of our link zone. So again, we're getting that success. So in terms of takeaways, with 24 rigs turning, there's a high economic impact of improperly handled data. In terms of quality data and capture, that high level and local review, you have lots of people reviewing the data, and we're doing it constantly. And data is everyone's responsibility. So by those two things, the data capture, we know we have high confidence in this data that it is correct going into the database. Do it right the first time, DERFed. That's the acronym for it. You save a lot of time and money later. And empowered employees optimize. When we empower our employees, they optimize for us. We don't need to tell them how to do it. We let them do it on their own. From a communication point of view, it's that decentralization of control. So that communication, that very flat horizontal structure of communication, so they're talking to each other, they know what's going on. And again, empowered employees optimize. And from our point of view, from management, the big takeaway here is really that in order for management to keep control of the data, you actually have to let go of control of the data. Thank you.